A garden of pure ideology.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad.
Or a hilarious beer ad.
Break was over 15 minutes ago, Mitch!
I think you're the best ever.
Look out. Back up. Where are you?
You're in the bush.
Well, how am I supposed to know? I've never been there.
I don't always drink beer, but when I do...
I think we're gonna be here a while.
All right, today we've got Justin Bajan, co-founder of Familiar Creatures, joining us. Justin has nearly 2 decades of experience at major agencies, such as The Martin Agency, GSD&M, becoming good friends of ours, Arnold Worldwide, and David and Goliath. And he's here to share some of his insights from his journey around the ad world. We dive in together on how he co-founded Familiar Creatures in 2018, an ad agency in Richmond, Virginia. Ayo! And the importance of, I'm from Virginia, and the importance of trusting your team, how to stay creative when you're on a tight budget, which, let's be honest, we are starting to see more and more of these days, and why keeping your clients happy is absolutely crucial, particularly when working with challenger brands, a phrase I came to appreciate during our discussion, and his philosophy on telling the truth in advertising. He also covers Familiar Creatures' tagline, "Together we outsmart brand behemoths," and how they help smaller brands compete with the big guys. Justin also shares some practical tips for maintaining strong client relationships, navigating the complexities of production, the nuances of pitching, and a light touch on the latest trends when it comes to director treatments. So, if you're ready to hear about starting an agency, being creative, building those solid relationships, and staying ahead of the curve, you are in the right place. Because now, I turn it over to today's sensei, Justin Bajan. Justin, if you could introduce yourself for those who might not know you, and share a little bit about who you are so that our audience can learn you by your voice.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Justin Bajan, co-founder of Familiar Creatures. We're an advertising agency based in Richmond, Virginia, and it's nice to meet you all.
Awesome. We're going to do some light warm-up
Okay.
just to get us going here. So, Justin, one, if you weren't in advertising, what would you be doing?
The reason why I'm struggling, okay, I have an answer, but I do love this world a lot, especially now that I have my own agency. The fantasies have completely died down that I used to have, but if I had my druthers, I would pursue screenwriting, writing for TV or writing for film. It's not that far out of the realm of like my muscles I've built over the years. I know it's a totally different racket and a totally different game, but yeah, that's one that I had a fantasy about, and I still kind of dabble in that nobody will ever see probably. But
Well, I'm going to throw us off course already and say why. I'm sure you're very busy, so try not to cackle too loud at this, but why don't you? I mean, there's the blacklist. I guess you could do that if you're familiar with that. So why not upload one of those scripts to the blacklist?
yeah, it's a time thing. It's more of an energy thing. Definitely time. I have 3 kids, all under the age of 13, and then I have have the advertising agency, which is a family and a job, all those things in one. I want to make sure we're doing the right things here, and I'm serving the company as much as I can. But I keep the flicker of that hope going, and I fantasize when my kids are a little bit older and the company's more mature, trading those hours my wife and I may be spending watching Frasier season 8 to maybe a creative pursuit that's more of a hobby. So it's just trying to manage my energy. I would love to do it. Me and a friend of mine have been dabbling in something right now, but who knows?
When it comes to the writing, do you want to write for stuff that you could shoot in your backyard, or maybe strictly for bigger things like, here's my spec for a TV pilot, pick me up Hollywood, it's $4 million per episode or bust?
I know that a route is writing from the heart and confronting some emotional thing that occurred in my life, because only I can tell that story. I'm a pretty invulnerable guy, so it's hard for me to like imagine that. I'm not some fantasy nerd, or I don't talk about things like world building either. So the things that I've always loved were, the early Woody Allen films, the early 70s, and Mel Brooks, the Marx Brothers, Larry David, Jerry Seinfeld, the show Seinfeld. Just, they're grounded, but maybe there could be some license in terms of reality. That's what I'd like to approach doing, because I like I like writing jokes. I like being silly. That's kind of what I've always done in advertising too, mostly comedy, but dabbling with other things. And so I haven't thought about it as much as someone who's going to really start doing it tomorrow. And I've read, screenwriting books. I took a class, and I understand it's easier to sell something that's going to cost $4 million versus $400 million. I don't think I would start right off the bat being a George Lucas type, but
Yeah.
maybe Noah Baumbach or something that's here that's funny.
Yeah. Part of the reason I don't mind this, this is, by the way, this is totally on brand for how this works. I have this nice long list of questions that I've built for you, and then we start a discussion and we go totally off course. But that's fine. What you're talking about is our audience is probably 60, 40, 70, 30 filmmakers to advertisers, right? Mm-hmm. Because they want to listen to what you have to say for the most part. So we're kind of this year trying to lean back towards filmmaker direction a little bit to entertain your side of the table a little bit more. But almost everybody I know in some way, shape, or form is interested in it, except for my moneymaker friends who probably have already done that indie, and they go, I'm not doing that again. I have a family. I'm not doing this again. That was 2 years of my life where I was broke, and I'm just a line producer now. And I like having cars that are paid for and a house. And it's a painful truth. And I don't mean to sound like a jerk and rub salt into our wounds, but we either say the truth or we don't.
Yeah.
We're going to go back to fastballing you here. So, what's your go-to snack during brainstorming sessions? Those late nights, getting that pitch ready. Somebody's open in town.
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind was an apple. I'm 42 now. My metabolism is just, it never was great, actually. And I work out. I try to work out almost every weekday. So I don't have, my vices have gone down, tremendously. And an apple, like I've been digging at Publix. They have this thing called Cosmic Crisp. So first of all, I was in the Honey Crisp, trend. And then I found this thing called Cosmic Crisp, and I highly recommend it. I could be an influence for Cosmic Crisp. I don't know where they make them, how they make them, but it is cosmic because it's so good. So that's a really cool answer. It's the best
it's another honest answer. I think we're 2 for 2 on the brutal truths, because I also now I call it eat for energy, and I used to eat for entertainment.
Yeah,
but now I eat for energy. Yeah. And it's just my way to describe things to people when friends would be like, yeah, you're not being fun. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm really tired, and I need to stay awake, and I can't keep drinking coffee all day long, so I need something.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's not eating or cold showers or plunges, anything to stay. We're really, our health culture, sometimes I wonder if we're kind of bordering into masochism or if it's truly health. I don't know, but all these things to stay awake and get more hours. That's why I didn't even bother suggesting those freakish tips for here's how to sneak 20 minutes in for that writing. The curveballs are going to get curvier now. Okay. What's a campaign you wish you had worked on?
Yeah, I mean, many come to mind.
It's got to be the one. Somebody has to climb to the top.
The Skittles work that Chiat Day did in the mid-2000s, I still go back to that work. I still go back to Pinata Man. I still go back to Skittles Touch. I still go back to one where they open a little tiny door and there's a little man inside of it, and Berries and Cream for Starburst, which I consider part of the Mars Wrigley cinematic universe. Yeah, that stuff, that happened right before I got in advertising. I was in advertising school or in college, and yeah, that was a beautiful time.
So you said you revisit those?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of I provide some extra advertising lessons here at Familiar Creatures, whether they're warranted or people want to listen, and those will be some that I bring up,
This is to your team or some...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to the creatives that are here. Most of them were born when they were babies when that work was out, or they were little kids. They've heard about it maybe in passing, and I'm just the old man who's, instead of telling them about a Volkswagen commercial from 1967, I'm telling about a Skittles spot from 2005.
I do know. I just turned 37 myself, and I'm pretty sure we're in the same era. Last warm up. What's the weirdest idea you've ever pitched? Preferably one you wish you could get back. I'd love for it to be as painful as possible, if you're willing to tear your chest open for us.
So many. I don't know about weirdest. I can think, well, I don't know about bad. I can think there are definitely weird ones. Like there was one actually that I brought up today, and somehow if I could retain copyright rights over this so I could use it maybe somehow later, it would have cost a lot of money. and it was a commercial for Kia Motors back when I worked on Kia. It was a spot where a guy is riding a dinosaur that's shooting lasers in a prehistoric jungle amongst other dinosaurs with mounted lasers on them. And he gets off the dinosaur and he's like, hello, nice to see you. And today I want to talk about this. And he's comparing the laser dinosaur to the Kia Optima, this mid-size sedan. And he's going through all the features of the dinosaur. Well, it does have a laser on its plates that can shoot from a dorsal position. But the Kia Optima does have retractable seats go down 60/40. And he's going through all of this. He's very rational about it. And I love that spot. I just love how throwaway it is and how straightforward he is.
Yeah.
Super Bowl is a time for being bombastic and leaning into stuff like tropes and action movies and stuff, and sort of giving people that kind of feeling with a dinosaur that shoots lasers, but not having it do anything too cool. And then talking about a mid-size sedan is just really satisfying.
I almost feel, I would love to keep going in that, but I feel like we should respect that so that you can come back to it, because I'd actually like to see that one day. So out of respect for this idea, we're going to close the book on it for now, because I'd like to see it. I don't want to put your idea too far out there and then we see it stolen one day. So copyright TM, you heard it here. If you steal it, lawyer up.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to come out of the gate swinging with one, because as I now know, you're familiar with story structure. So I'm going to hook them right away. What is the secret sauce? When you close the doors and you've got your team, I would love to hear what's your thing. Not everybody has a thing. I think I have things. Sometimes we have a thing. And I think some people say, look, this has to have this. What is this for this project?
I think it's telling the truth about the brand or the product in an unexpected way. Whether it lends itself to comedy or lends itself to something emotional, it's finding something that's authentically correct about that brand or product. And because we've identified that and satisfied the client's, desire to tell the world something about themselves, then it gives us license to do that in a way that's unusual, memorable, unforgettable, crazy, because it's not random. It's not just being weird for weird's sake. A lot of times people say, like, you guys do quirky work. You're very quirky. And it's like, I don't want that to overshadow the fact that we strategically work this thing to death. It just happened to be quirky, but it's not just being quirky, because we want this stuff to work for our clients,
Yeah. Would I be right to assume that that's kind of like, who's the actor? They do the Mayhem. Is that something that's kind of telling the truth? Because they're always talking about these bad things that happen, and then you're on the phone with insurance pretty soon afterwards. Is that kind of in that direction a little bit, where maybe it's a little dangerous, because if in undisciplined hands, it could be something that looks bad for the brand, but you would go, no, that's the truth. So let's find a way that makes it work.
Yeah, that would be an example. I'm trying to think of others. Like I mentioned Volkswagen again from the 60s. They were very honest about their product, and they weren't saying like it can go faster than fast. The towing capacity is this and that. It was just saying it's just a small car. It looks kind of cool. It brought a refreshing change to the feel of the 50s and the early 60s, and there's been stuff time and time again in that realm as well that I love. And I don't know if other people diagnose and dissect ads like that to find that, but it's always satisfying when you can remember the brand. And so many times when people are talking about something, they can't remember what the brand was. And I'm like, they must not have done their job then. Like, it's not just our job to be entertaining. It's our job to, convey a truth about the product so you remember that product,
Well, I guess on that note, a bit of a cousin to that question, where do you find inspiration when you do start a project? It might not have to be that secret sauce where you come to the table, but what's another way that maybe you start looking for inspiration when you get a brief?
Inspiration is sort of like a well that you're always, filling up. I guess, a well is something that can be on demand. You can draw from it at all times. So it's keeping my ears open to, new TV shows like, Succession, diving into Succession and just thinking.
Just restarted Succession last night.
There you go.
Missed it. We missed it since it ended. We wanted it back.
I mean, thinking about the filmmaking of that, the storytelling of that, the choices they made there, and then another one that sounds just like Succession, but Severance.
Yep.
Same kind of thing. Back in the day, Mr. Robot was super inspirational for me, amongst other shows. Using those kind of like jarring new ways of storytelling to inspire my mind and keep it going,
Yeah.
and not just relaxing in a comfort zone that's like nothing's been good since 2004. Like I don't ever want to be that old guy who's just decrying that.
Yeah.
Now, I did not mention anything about advertising to you. That's not on purpose. I do stay glued to Ad Age, Ad Week, and follow different people on X/Twitter and Instagram. So I know about, I have a foot in what's going on in advertising as well. And so I'm always bringing stuff. I probably do it the most, and maybe it's annoying sometimes. Back to our team, we have a Slack channel called FC Inspo. And so I'm always dumping stuff in there, like maybe once a day, maybe twice a day.
I like that.
Just to make sure our team, who's super busy, can break away a moment and see like, well, what do these people do for, this campaign, and or like what is this new Questlove, Questlove's doing this documentary about SNL and the musical acts that have been in there over the past 50 years, and they made this teaser video that's amazing. Just using that as inspo for our team as well.
I think that's cool, though, and I'm not just saying that because we're talking, but I mean, I can recall a lot of the commercials that do work are because they're so relevant and people enjoy the familiarity of them. I would pick up on it pretty quickly if I was seeing a Super Bowl commercial that was shot in the style of Succession. Like, it was so cool. I love that you brought that up, because we have dinner shows. And so we restarted it last night because I was like, oh, I'm out. We just finished Penguin and Squid Games and a few other things.
Oh, Penguin's so good.
That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, so good.
Pleasant surprise.
So dark,
I was kind of
though.
getting fatigued. I know I'm getting fatigued by the word fatigue when it comes to universes. And we're rewatching the Succession pilot, and I was like, man, they were telling us so much with the camera, and we didn't know how to watch this show yet.
Yes.
And it was so cool to be brought back to that, because you know how to watch it by the last season, but we didn't know how to watch it by the first season. And we don't know who Frank is. We don't know these relationships, but they're telling you right away. And that's so that I think visiting relevant stuff is smart. Sounds like you know what you're doing a little bit, if I did my research correctly. You've had nearly 2 decades of experience at some of the biggest agencies. To name a few: Martin Agency, GSD&M, Arnold Worldwide. Did you want me to mention any others of those big ones?
David and Goliath, I'm proud of them.
Yeah, David and Goliath. Where's their office again?
They're in El Segundo, California.
Got it.
Right by the airport, and they're also in Brooklyn. They just opened that a couple years ago, I think.
Okay, so you have moved around a bit, I assume.
Yeah, vagabond.
Yeah, were you in Austin for GSD&M?
Yes, I was.
Got it. Just curious to know if you can recall what some takeaways might be, like nuggets of wisdom that you took from a place where you were like, man, here at David and Goliath, I got carved up in this direction, and it's whether you wanted it to or not, it stays with you. And the same can go for anybody. Martin, GSD&M. Yeah, I'd love to hear what you took away from any of these places.
Yeah. Every place is something different. So at GSD&M, that was a crash course in just how to think of ads, because I was going to University of South Carolina and I was soaking up as much as I could. And then between my junior and senior year, I interned at GSD&M, and Luke Sullivan was there, who's a very influential and legendary copywriter in advertising. And he took me under his wing, and he just showed me basically like, hey, if you can't say it in a small square, then you don't have a simple idea. And just like take a notebook and make like a 2-inch by 2-inch square. And if you can't write your headline, if you can't make your image happen in that square, then you have something that's complicated and too much. So that was a great discipline. Never knew about it, never thought about it.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. And is that just the idea, the concept, or the theme, or just all of it compressed?
All of it. You should be able to do a Nike ad in a 2x2, square. You should be able to do a Geico, ad or whatever. And that's, it's 2004. So he's talking about print and posters, but we still consume media that same kind of way on Instagram and other channels anyways.
I was going to say the irony, right? 20 years later, it ended up digital on a square.
Yeah. And it ended up being that exact size almost.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah.
And at Mullen, what was interesting there was me and my partner were the only juniors there. So we just had to kind of show up in a way that wasn't too bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So we could hang in the room with these guys in their 40s and 50s who they almost seemed like war veterans, craggy, lobstermen and fishermen who've seen it all. And we had to hang with them and make sure our ideas weren't too silly and wacky. and unbuyable. So that was the learning there. And then David and Goliath, they always had the Super Bowl commercial every year for Kia.
Yeah.
And I learned this concept, which is not owned by David and Goliath. You'll hear about this at other ad agencies, but the notion of boardsmanship. And this applies to filmmaking too, but like storyboarding your idea in such a way that the client gets it, but also wants it. And so me and a partner, one year, we thought we had some good ideas for the Super Bowl. We got beat up by this more senior team, and they just kind of like gave us that secret. Like, look at how many times we showed the car in these boards, and look how good the car looks. That's going to make the client pay attention. And so for the next year, we made sure out of those 18 frames, the car was in it a lot, not to lie or be disingenuous, but just to prove to them your product is central to this idea. It's not just us frolicking and being silly, having fun for our own sake.
Did they communicate that being specific to Kia, or were they saying, hey, this is the car industry, you need to show them their car? Or is this just products, any product in general?
Yeah, it worked on all those layers, actually, Cody. Like it was about advertising. It was also about Kia, but you could also say that's also for cars too. But it also just works on a macro level. Like, Don't hide it. Don't be caught up in your artistic vision and forget what you're trying to really do. And that helped us so much. Next year when we came through, there was probably like 10 or 12 teams. So it was really exciting. It's like winning the lottery when you sell a Super Bowl spot.
Well, I was going to ask about that, if now's the right time to plug that. So this is the Kia Super Bowl commercial that you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. So yeah, I'd love to hear about your involvement with that, if you don't mind sharing it. Or and if on the note of, I guess, any lessons, maybe we can weave those in and how you applied those. You obviously have a success story that's tangential to that lesson that you got the year prior. It sounds like it's a pretty rewarding turnaround.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, when you're young and naive, it was my partner's first commercial he ever made. That was like my third, maybe. So I was still pretty new to the game. You don't even have like the perspective to be like, oh, this is so hard and life's been unfair and now I finally triumphed over it. It's just kind of like, oh, I think good ideas should get made. Like we were that naive, you know. And there's something interesting about it happening to you when you're, how old was I? I was 28, turning 29. My partner was like a year or two younger than me. So yeah, back to perspective, it just didn't have any. It was just kind of like you work hard and then sometimes good things happen to you. But that boardsmanship was huge for us. And then it's not the only idea that me and my partner had. And I worked with other people too, you know, just for the shot of having more arrows in the quiver, you know, launched at trying to sell work in. You know, the one they chose was, I'm excited that we got to make it. I had so many other ideas, and what separates a great idea from another one is sometimes hard to say. It's kind of esoteric sometimes. And I'm trying to think what else. Like, it's not getting too lost in the glitz and glamour of it and still trying to do a great job the whole time, staying present and pushing and pushing and pushing and being adamant about communicating your vision, even if you're like, you are 28 or 29. You know, speaking up, because we could have just been passengers on that ride, but we were very much, and that might go to the naivete again, but we were very much vocal and adamant about certain things that happened in that commercial and the shooting of it too. You know, one funny thing was when I got chewed out by Noam Murrow, famous director, on set because I just didn't
on this set.
Yeah, on that set of that commercial, I didn't feel like our point of view was being heard, and so I just kept going to the line producer. Then I think I finally got to know him, and then I got cursed out in front of everybody. And I'm a non-confrontational, people-pleasing kind of person, so that was pretty jarring.
Is that? I mean, I'm just curious because, you know, this isn't a bashing session, but this is people like to learn. You know, they like the casualness of our discussions. They kind of like hearing the horror stories, you know, shared passions, but also adversities. But I mean, this is also an opportunity to say, you run your own agency, which I'm looking forward to talking about now. How would you feel if a director that you've hired in tandem with an outside production company is chewing out one of your copywriters on set in front of everybody?
Yeah, I wouldn't feel good. I can't remember how it got resolved. I think you spoke to my boss before, Colin. Colin was our boss, Colin Jeffrey.
Colin was your boss?
Yes.
Colin was your direct boss at the time with this?
He was, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
He was kind of the shepherd through this process because it was, you know, $5 or $6 million budget, working with celebrities, you know, 6 days of shooting. It was insane.
Yeah.
Also, I had a tiny infant that was born. The story is crazy. The idea sold in on my birthday, and then my first child was born 2 days later.
So you're having a good week.
Oh yeah, things are gestating at the same time.
Yeah.
Like the producing of the commercial and the producing of the child are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm working some of the night shoots, which that's some piece of advice is don't write an idea that it has to happen at nighttime.
Okay. Noting.
Unless if you have the stamina or you're like you come from a graveyard shift family and you can handle that because you will be falling asleep and there will be pictures of you.
Well, see, that was the shift, by the way. I see we've gone beyond the we were so excited and naive to learning about production now.
Yeah.
It's hard to be creative once you've learned about production because years ago I was like, all right, guys, it's a Power Rangers fan film. We are going to crush this thing. And now at this age, I'm like, all right, if you record this fish tank at 2 or 3 different angles, we could probably just do a whole feature with voiceovers on the fish. One location. Don't think I'm kidding.
I so relate to that.
It's just because it's so awful. I mean, when we were talking about the film stuff earlier, like Company Cry supported me. I was like, hey guys, I got to step away for a bit. I don't talk too much about it, but was able to shoot a feature in 2023. And I was like, guys, I'm going to crush this thing. I've learned all this stuff. And it just destroyed me. And that was in Virginia. I went back to my backyard. I was like, I got this. I've totally got this. And even with all that in mind, just absolutely wrecked. So everybody, especially the filmmakers listening, can relate to just these brutal, awful, awful days on set. So,
yeah.
But back to my question. We're not shaming anybody, but it's also a learning opportunity to the producers that are supposed to. So we'll just leave directors out of it. Now, actually, no, they should listen too. But I mean, because production, somebody I would say should have been advocating for the junior copywriter at the time of that one.
Yeah. Was it? I think I was just a copywriter, but I was functionally basically a junior. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the takeaway is you wouldn't like that on your set. That wouldn't be great.
Yeah. I think at the same time, was there another more tactful way of approaching this problem? There might have been, but I have no regrets, even though I had that shame, because we finally got some takes that were around, and it was really just a question of physics. And once they listened to me, like that's what actually got in the spot was a take from when we made that correction. So it was a necessary confrontation that will always stick with me because I really haven't anything like that since. I haven't had too many awkward shoots.
That's good. We like horror stories here. Good learning lessons. So, okay, cool. So we got some big learning lessons from some of these agencies. Did any other ones stand out that maybe you took with you?
Yeah. So then at the Martin Agency.
So we're back in Richmond now.
Yes. So presenting and just making sure you can tell a story that's compelling to people. You want to make people laugh and you want to kill in the stand-up sense, but you have to convince everyone that what you're doing is sound and logical. So I got a lot more reps presenting at Mart Agency, a lot more. And I was more free there than I had ever been. It was my third job and people listened more and I got to be myself the most there.
Is that a result of Martin or Richmond or just the vibe?
That was just the vibe. Yeah. It was just a more open place. They didn't have like one way to do things. They didn't really have like a narrow focus on how things should be done. So they welcomed lots of voices, and they welcomed my voice. And so I always say it was like my graduate school. That's kind of where I took like raw creative energy and I kind of applied it and became a lot more sharp and polished. So that's that. And then from there, I went to Arnold Worldwide in Boston.
Yes, boy, so you really went around. Okay.
Yeah. I'm a Boston boomerang and a Richmond boomerang. I started my career in Boston. In some ways, I ended my career there because that was my last job before starting this. Then there's a Richmond boomerang too from Martin, and then now coming back to start Familiar Creatures. I don't know if there was one piece of advice. It was just being around a lot of other really smart, funny people. So it kind of raised my game. I couldn't just get by, so to speak. I had to make sure I was on top of my quips and my jokes.
Yeah.
I liked that. I liked being pushed, and I took a lot from that place. I think I took also just like the wisdom of how to be a creative director, how to shepherd teams, how to push people, because I was finally getting to do that as a job function. I didn't really have that function at Martin or anywhere else. I wish I had like a succinct, pithy, put it on a license plate answer for every agency, but that's the best I can do.
I mean, if you had one, I would read it because it sounds like you got some stuff. I just spoke with a couple months ago Mike Byrne of Anomaly.
Yeah, listen to that one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. I enjoyed getting to know Mike, and I liked at the end where I kind of challenged him with a question that I'll ask you too. And I said, what would you do if you were starting over? And he said, I would probably do the same thing again, and that I would go where the best are, because you're just better off climbing that ladder and getting sharpened by them. Maybe some people will say the approach is be a big fish in a small pond, and there are chapters in life where that's a good thing, but I'm certainly, without being too specific, sometimes I find myself going, ooh, am I being pushed enough? You know, because I could be getting challenged a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to roll into that question, because it is something that I have been asked, and it's a similar flavor of wouldn't change anything because I like where I am. At the same time, I think I would tell myself to, and this is just hard to do because you need the perspective and you need the time and you need adversity, but know thyself. How can you cultivate an experience that allows you to know thyself? I feel like I didn't know myself for a few years.
Really? Even after all the work you'd already done?
Yeah, really the Martin Agency was the time that gave me perspective on, okay, I like it when there's nice people around me who are encouraging, who give me the benefit of the doubt. My first two jobs, I was low on the totem pole, and they all had like their way of doing things. And my point of view was, not as respected, and maybe it should have been because I was so junior. But at the same time, it could be demotivating to always feel like you have to prove yourself or fit a box. But Martin kind of let me be who I was, and so I developed who I was. And so I learned there's different ways of motivating. Some people, it's the work, like, you could do great work here, and that can be enough for people. Some people, it could be the city or the building that you're in. Some people can be like, we have a rich track record of winning awards, and you can win awards here. And I learned being around people that you like and value and that value you. That's pretty motivating for me.
If I'm understanding the comment correctly, I like that you said something about the city and the building. Are you talking about that making a difference with how you're coming to work because you're just literally inspired by the walls?
I think you can. I think that can be a motivating factor for some people.
Oh, absolutely it can. I mean, look at New York. For all the problems that come with New York, people just get so excited when you're walking around the city, and it just wakes you up. I mean, every time we go back, I'm not there permanently right now, but whenever I go up for a visit to the other office or something, it's always fun to be in the city.
When I worked in Boston, I lived in Cambridge, and so I took the Red Line, which is the T, a route on the T there. That's their subway system. Mm-hmm. And I always felt like these are all people who are trying to change the world today. They're going to Mass General Hospital. They're going to these tech spaces. They're going to huge financial firms. It always felt inspiring. Every morning I was on the T.
I like that. That's cool.
That you don't necessarily have when, like in Richmond, I have a 5-minute commute. It's amazing.
Right.
There's actually no time to be inspired.
Richmond's cool though. Richmond's it's a nice mix, and this is the perfect segue. I didn't know these questions would line up so nicely. We're gliding right into. I would love to hear, however long you'd like to take, the story of Familiar Creatures and Richmond. Now that we've heard about, these lessons that you took from the other agencies, I'd love to know why you didn't keep climbing and why you said, I'm doing this and I'm doing it in Richmond, and here's who I'm doing it with.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because it's a big change when you go to an advertising school. So I went to the Creative Circus in Atlanta. You get prepped with this manifest destiny kind of feeling of like, hey, it's a nomadic thing. You've got to keep making your book better and better, your book being your portfolio. You have to keep changing jobs in order to add to your book.
Oh, they encourage you changing jobs.
Well, they encourage you to be great. If you're feeling stagnant or you keep losing out on selling in work, you got to keep finding places where you can gain purchase and have more of a ability to sell more work and get more stuff for your portfolio. So I was trained to be like, you got to move like every couple of years. Martin was the longest place I've ever stayed. That was 4.5 years. But after going to Boston the second time, my wife and I were kind of like, what is our life? Like we have 3 kids now. We're in our mid-30s. Like, are we going to just keep doing this? Slow rock stars, instead of going to a new city every night, you're going to a new city every couple of years,
Yeah.
Are we going to stay in Boston? Should we settle down here? Should we unpack our boxes and bags? Like, if you ever came to our house, it just looked like we were ready to move. We just moved and we're ready to move.
It's been fun listening to you because you might be, you might be one of the only people I've ever met who's moved potentially more than me for work. It's really cool in discussions when you can talk to people about all these cities and, talk about, restaurants and neighborhoods and stuff. But yeah, counting them up and I'm like, oh man, I think he's done this more than I have now. But at least you have good reasons. I was wondering.
Well, the benefit is like back to perspective and knowing thyself. I learned through those moves a little bit about like, what do I like in a city? Like, I know I like cities already, so I knew that, but what's important to me? Do I like a grid system? Does that matter? Do I like public transportation? Do I like certain kinds of food? Like, it taught me, it gave me perspective. It opened up my eyes from somebody who moved to South Carolina in the late 90s from Connecticut, and it was not the South Carolina that's showing up in food blogs and CNN.com, best places to visit then. It was pretty like remote and kind of isolated from cool stuff. Let's just put it that way. So moving helped in that regard. But as far as Familiar Creatures, like I just worked with Dustin Arts is my co-founder. We worked together at the Martin Agency. We both kind of approached work in a similar fashion, thinking strategically, but trying to be fun at the same time or interesting at the same time, asked a lot of hard questions and briefings, and we worked on a bunch of stuff together. And so he recruited me to start Familiar Creatures. He was like, I think I might have an opportunity to do something for Devil's Backbone Brewery, which had been acquired by Anheuser-Busch.
Used to love Devil's Backbone.
Yeah, nothing wrong with a Vienna lager. And he's like, what if you came back here to start an agency with me? It took me like a day or so because I was just like, again, I was in the mindset of like, you keep going, like you don't come back.
It does feel weird to go back to places.
It does, especially it was only 20 months earlier. But it was like, we did like Richmond. We had no problem with it. It was more about just like, again, like where should we be for a long-term stay? And, you kind of put it on a spreadsheet and you think about it. You're like, well, I'd love to go back there. Actually, our family's still in South Carolina. It's not that far from there. The vibe was getting better year after year here. This is where he wanted to be. So we worked together before. We had a rapport. We stayed in touch with each other. He said, you want to do this thing? I was looking for my next thing already. I was in the mode of possibility. And God bless having a wife who can work remotely. Like, it's a harder decision to make if you have nothing and you're like, well, I still have to provide for my family. It's like my wife is already providing. What we're doing is going to add to that. And if it doesn't work out, we can keep going. We can go somewhere else. I think some people think about this too hard when they're like, oh, it's too hard to start a place.
Starting an agency or moving?
Yeah. How could I start my own company? How could I start my own agency? And I say it from a place of privilege because my wife works. It doesn't mean it's like you're buying into a timeshare and you have to have that for 40 years. It's just like, try it, see if it works. If you have that in your, if you have that life situation, and then try something else if it doesn't. Like we didn't make some big monument and say like, hello, we are Familiar Creatures. We will be here forever. We've made a promise to the public. But we have now been here for almost 7 years, and it's just grown steadily, incrementally, which is also sort of a different model. Like in the advertising world, there's a new ad agency starting every week, it seems like. But I haven't tracked, how often do they open and how often do they close? And then also like how fast they grow. It seems like some of them grow like weeds overnight. But there's, I don't know how many are like us that have just grown at a steady rate, but not shot up and blown up to 200 to 300 people, 400 people. Like that's just not happening for us right now. We're not necessarily pursuing that. That would change a lot of things.
Well, I mean, I will, as a filmmaker, I will bash filmmakers in a good way. I think you can do that, or could have done that the way that you did it because of that experience. Because same way you say agencies, I mean, there's new, quote, production companies starting every year. Well, these are just, the guys and girls coming out of film school that can make an Instagram page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Part of the reason we started, and I've had to tell this story a lot on here, so I won't do it again, but, we wanted to further the discussion because I wanted to try to get more experiences by talking to people like yourself to help that situation, because a lot of if you're not in these situations, you just don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You just don't know how bad you might sound. And I've seen some filmmakers who have the best of intentions reach out with the most atrocious emails or egregious requests, or some things will just sound awful. They'll say like, hey, I see you're doing a commercial, can I show up to shoot on it? And then I have to go, oh, thank you so much. I'm assuming that you're asking to be the DP. We actually, we attach this DP when we pitch and et cetera, et cetera. So, but hey, and they say something nice. And I got this message back. They said, oh no, I just want to come shoot on it to add to my portfolio. And I see, I like to everyone listening, there's a face that Justin made. It's the same face everybody makes when I tell that story. And it's amazing because people who know how crazy that is, they're like, wait, yeah. So I nicely said back to the young learner, trying to vague it up as much as I can. I said, hey, so just so you know, there's a lot of people that do a lot of hard work to make these things happen. And so getting to put these things on your portfolio, is a statement about what you did to get into the position to put them on your portfolio. It's not just about the pictures. So respectfully, absolutely not. But if you want to PA or something to start learning, you can. And then that person didn't even reply. And I just think, wow, like, man, you guys need help. Like, and so I don't mean to sound like, oh, you need business savvy kids, but you do. You need to know how to have some discussions.
Yeah.
Hence why you sharing is generous and appreciated, because sometimes, we have people trying to learn and they just might not even know how something is coming across. So we're in Richmond. We're 7 years ago. We're starting Familiar Creatures. Sounds like you had a great situation. I had a similar situation, but there's no way I could have shot a feature film if my wife wasn't also working remotely. So that was her gift to me over the last 2 years, and now I've got to pay it back in every way that I possibly can. So it sounds like you had an awesome situation and a great support system to make the move and get it going. What was the first win where you guys were able to look at each other and go, I mean, obviously you can start the company, but I mean, what was the first gig or job or client where you're like, oh my gosh, we're up and running. We're doing it.
We started working in Devil's Backbone because of Dustin's relationship with them. He had done packaging for them and knew that they were in need of doing advertising. And so that was something that we worked on. And, we finally sold in some work. We were excited about that. I guess I would say when we were shooting that work 2 or 3 months later, and we made something crazy like 24 videos in like 4 days or something like that. Like so much content, 30s and 15s and 6s.
Did you guys just direct it yourselves and crew up?
No, we hired a directing duo named Truth Bullet. I knew one of the guys. He was one of my bosses actually at Arnold, and he had been doing some directing on the side. And the other director is a famous editor named Andre Betts, legendary, did a lot of the Volkswagen work of the 90s and 2000s for Arnold. And he was striking out.
It's pretty good start there. Yeah.
Yes. And so they could shoot and they could edit, which was attractive. And then David, my former boss, can also do photography. So they did a lot. They were like a powerhouse. And that was how we were able to do so much. Non-union talent. Central Virginia, just going in the crags and the crevices of the different mountains and stuff in the Blue Ridge area.
Was this at their brewery out there?
We actually never shot at the brewery, but we shot around it because it was all about people being in like nature.
Right.
The idea was slow by nature, so it's like showing people by a stream, showing people at a campfire. It was a lot of fun, and I think in doing that, I don't think I knew like, we have an advertising agency, but it was like, this is a really fun experience. And it's not too far from where I have been at big agencies. Like we have a DP, we have sound, we casted all this, like this is real. This is not just like some small junior baby version of it. Like this is actually a production. And then the work, when we started cutting it together, doing the post, was even more of an indication of that. So maybe that was in our first year, and that is another naivete story. Like you just didn't know what you didn't know and just tried to do a good job. And we were blessed. We were really, really blessed.
Are you guys in the same office that you started in, or did you move up?
No, we bounced around. We went from the Capital One Cafe to some cheap space in a law office building to across the street from that law office building. We call it the Bernie Sanders building. It's called the High Point building because there's a big mural of Bernie Sanders on the side of it doing some kind of dance move. And we were there for several years, and we moved from there to here, still in the same area, Scott's Addition, but this allows us to have more space, and it's self-contained. It's not a bunch of different rooms. We've been here since June of 2023, so it'll be our 2-year anniversary here in 6 months or so. So we moved around a lot, and we have the capacity to grow in this space, but that'd be a good problem to outgrow it too, and just have to worry about where we're going to go next. But there's more of a permanence here. We have you walk by it and you'll be like, oh, I see that logo. It's nice and we've had people come in. It's kind of like the people going on the stair car and Arrested Development, the hop-ons. We have the people coming in, just walking into our building, just like, hey, what happens in here?
We've had that before. That is funny when people just walk in off the street, especially when you're kind of busy. But you appreciate it's very charming.
It is.
Yeah.
We actually got a sign made. It's like meeting in progress. And sometimes we forget to put it up, and like yesterday, Amazon Business came by, like, hello. I'm like, why did you just walk in? But it's fun.
Take me to, I guess I'll hop to Crunch. Are you exclusive with Crunch? Is this?
Yeah, we don't date around.
Don't date around. Are you guys Crunch's main agency?
Yeah, we're their agency of record is the parlance.
That's fantastic.
We started with them on a project basis in 2021, mid-pandemic. And
interesting time to start. Yep.
Yeah, a pretty normal time. And then a year later, we convinced them to sign a contract with us, retainer contract, and we've been on contract with them for now almost 3 years since then. So
you have some fun spots with them. I like that campaign. I'd love to hear if there's any fun stuff to share, what it was like doing it. Do you call it the Feel Good Not Bad campaign?
Yeah, I love Feel Good Not Bad. It's such a simple way to say something, but it's all you need to say.
Well, I thought of it when you were sharing your philosophy earlier with some of the curveball questions. You said, tell a truth. And I was like, okay, I could see some hints of that in the Feel Good Not Bad videos.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, we worked on all of their strategy, and we did all these interviews with them. We did all these exercises. We did a big workshop in New York. And what we determined out of that is that they're a company that believes everyone deserves to feel good. So trying to have a higher order mindset in terms of, you could say, like, we want everyone to be strong. It's like, well, Crunch could do things when you go there. It could be yoga. It could be getting a tan. It could be, just stretching. That's enough to make someone feel good. And so that felt strong enough for us to just take a swing at as a campaign, and our team just crushed it. And now we've done 2 rounds of that, and I love that work.
Yeah.
It is silly, but it is honest, and it's like, if you watched it, you would be nodding, like, that's actually, yeah, that is what life is like.
It seems like one of those ideas, much like Mayhem, where the creativity could be abundant. You could just keep going with that idea for a long time.
Yes, it's a great point.
Yeah, and that one can stick.
I love that you said that, because that's just how we aim for every time. It's like, we want something that can just bear fruit, over and over again. That just tells us it's a big idea, and then it makes our job easier once you crack that, which can be hard to crack. But yeah, they're a great client for us.
It wasn't the Crunch that I met when I first moved out to Hollywood years and years and years ago. It was one of my very first moves, and I needed a gym, and I knew nothing about LA. So naturally, I went to the worst spot in town, right in the center of Hollywood, where traffic is awful and Sunset Boulevard is packed.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought, well, I have to be here because this is where I've moved. So I'm like driving down from Sherman Oaks just to go to the gym. And okay, so we know our neighborhoods out there.
Yes,
yep.
Yes.
Did you ever make it to the Crunch in Hollywood by chance?
No, but that's one of their original locations after they.
Is it really?
Outside of New York, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it was fun going in there because obviously I'm nobody. I'm like 22, 23, and it was like a hot spot for seeing people. I'm like taking cycling classes and working out next to almost a celebrity a day. And which is fun because you're doing squats next to somebody and you don't want to be staring at them the whole time. Like Jeff Goldblum's asking if you're done with the weights. I'm biking next to, I think like her name's Jennifer Carpenter from Dexter, and Dexter was just wrapping up and stuff. So somebody all the time. But the craziest thing about that Crunch is when I walked in the doors, and I'm not from, the city. So at the time, and now, whatever, I'm old and jaded, so I wouldn't even look twice at this. But I walk in, and at the front desk, behind the desk, there's these fogged windows of the men's locker room and the women's locker room, and you see the silhouettes of everybody showering.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the most, I was like, whoa, this is
Yeah.
so Hollywood.
Yeah.
This is crazy. This is crazy. This is like Eyes Wide Shut crazy. So seeing your charming Feel Good Not Bad campaign, I was like, I wonder if this is the same Crunch branding from years and years ago, or if the showers are still there, more specifically. But hey, now you know. You could take that to the meeting and say, guys, what are we doing about those showers?
Yeah, they're interesting because they're franchise owned, and that location is from before they changed that model. So they they have this spirit of rebellion and being edgy, just starting in New York City, starting in I can't remember which neighborhood, maybe the Lower East Side, and being a really edgy voice in the early 90s. And then they changed to a franchise model in the 2010. So they still have those locations like you just mentioned, and then the ones in New York, and one in Miami, one in San Francisco, that are like
Yeah.
the old Crunch that a lot of people know. And then they'll show up here in Richmond in a much different format. It's not as rebellious or gestury, but there's still the spirit of that. And so we try to make sure that that's a part of it because that's who they are as a brand.
Yeah.
But they're also in the suburbs. They're in much different places too. So you have to make sure it's a little bit more palatable for all audiences.
With so much competition, like you said, there's a new agency. You're competing with the juggernauts that have been doing this for 100 years and
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
the new tenacious people. You're going to a Crunch or somebody new. I guess what is, in your own words, obviously, how are you separating yourself from everyone? And now, this is what I'm saying. I understand if it's just like, hey, I'm not going to do that pitch on here.
No, I'm happy to.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm just curious to know what do you, and this is genuine. It's not just like I'm reading through a list of questions, but I mean, because it's a challenge for all of us. I mean, ultimately we are delivering the same skill sets for people while also bringing something of ourselves to it. But I'm curious to know what are you guys? Is it primarily you? Is it both of you? When you're pitching to a new client, how are you separating yourself from? I mean, Richmond, to anybody who doesn't know, Richmond is a pretty tenacious little backyard with the Martin Agency and a few others there as well. You don't get to put it on autopilot, I would assume, just because you're in Richmond.
It's evolved over the years, but this truth has been within us, and now we've just decided to go all in on it, is that, we really help challenger brands. So in advertising, there's market leaders, there's your Coca-Colas, there's your Walmarts, there's your Hellmans, there's your Planet Fitnesses, and then there's your challenger brands, those with less money, less media weight, less awareness. We help those brands kind of get a leg up. So our tagline is together we outsmart brand behemoths. And so everybody has a brand behemoth that they have to go up against. And since we worked on them at big agencies, we kind of know what their playbook is. We know what their go-to strategies are, and we know how to run circles around them just by being scrappier, hungrier, more non-traditional, more interesting. And that's what we try to say and try to attract brands who have that kind of mindset. There's all kinds of brands out there, and there's some who might be a challenger brand who doesn't want to be a challenger brand. There's times when we say no, and there's times when clients say no to us. And that's fine. We're independent. We don't have shareholders. We can do what's right for us. But yeah, it's just having this focus on working on challenger brands like Duke's Mayonnaise, huge in the Southeast, but they're completely dominated by Hellmann's everywhere else. And Hellmann's has been trying to make inroads in the Southeast too. So
Yeah.
winning them and winning Crunch really early on, Crunch goes against Planet Fitness, which outspends them by like 50-1. And having those in our case studies and showing that to future clients just proves out what we're already about. And so that's what we always talk about.
Sometimes we'll hang out for a bit and talk afterwards when I stop, recording, and we'll share some budget ranges and stuff, and everybody's saying that they're going down across the board. So I would assume that you guys have a bit of a head start on this budgets dropping scenario because you've already been thinking this way for a while. Is that correct?
It's true. That's very true. Like, we're not shocked. We've already been working in that fashion, and sometimes you can use it to your advantage. You can tell them, hey, because you don't have a big budget, you can't be boring. You can't be too responsible. because it's going to be destroyed by your big competitors. So you have to be more brave, more courageous to stand out.
So I have to be curious on behalf of the production companies and the directors, because we're aware of this too. Some directors, some production companies, they go, yep, that's the challenge. Let's do it. One light bulb, small camera, let's rock and roll. Some directors, some production companies, their head will spin if the budget's under 250 because they don't know how to do that.
Yes.
How can we be better equipped to meet you faster and not get blown off the table? Let's say there's a bid, for the next round of crunch spots, and you go, hey, Code, had a good time. Let's see your stuff. Let's see what you guys got. And then you come back and you go, Cody, but these numbers are awful. That is not the game right now. So if you were going to help, maybe what would you be No, it's production. At the end of the day, I mean, we'd all figure out, Not everybody knows the spreadsheets, though, where to cut costs. What are you telling a production company that's coming in too high if you're trying to help them out?
I mean, we set the expectation up front. We don't play coy and say like, what are they going to do? We tell you a ballpark. And there's some cases where we can go back and ask for a little bit more money. Depends on the vision or the shooting location or the production realities. So we don't like you shooting in the dark. We don't like to play games. We don't like when people playing games with us. So we're straight up.
What's a game? Just so that people can learn. They might not know they're playing games. What are games?
Oh, I mean, I won't say who, but there's been a time when I did tell a production company a number and they hit the number in their budget, but then they hit us with $1 million overages to make more money. And it felt terrible. But they were like, hey, but we made your initial number.
I know what you mean.
But it was sort of like deceptive.
Yeah, we've lost bids to that before. I've had people call back and they go, hey, so that number that you lost was because they came in and brought those numbers up later once they got the job. And I was like, oh, that makes me feel better.
Yes.
Because sometimes we'll be racking our brain going, man, I can't get this down. How are they?
Yes.
Because the agency producer will call and be like, hey, we like you, but these other people, they're crushing you on the numbers. So it's an interesting thing to learn and to navigate when I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then you find out that somebody is somehow finding ways to scoop around that, or even worse. I don't know if you've seen this. Sometimes they'll just show up and go, man, that idea you wanted to do is not going to work out. And they're like, whoa, you said you were going to do it. You're nodding your head. You've seen that scenario play out?
Well, we've had flavors of that. We never got to the shoot and had that happen, I don't think. But we've had flavors of that in the process where everything was happy-go-lucky. Once we awarded, then it got a lot more serious and less collegial, and the relationship flips and they're kind of in charge. And we have felt that, and I don't care for that feeling, because we just gave you an opportunity, like you said yes to this.
Yeah, absolutely. What are production companies not getting right in the coming landscape? And that goes for directors, DPs, anybody. I would say, what's the thing that you're missing? If you could just drop this, let's take this as the clue that you get to drop in. What's the thing that we all need to figure out to catch up to speed? Or if somebody literally wants to call and go, hey, I want to work with them, what do I need to do? How do I figure this out? And it could just be a thought experiment too. It doesn't have to tangibly be, here's how to approach us. I just mean, it could even be things that you're hearing from other agencies, or maybe things, and maybe it's something that you've seen people doing right. It doesn't have to be something they're doing wrong necessarily.
I think that the challenge, if I put myself in your guys' shoes, I think the number one thing that you should strive for is repeat business, because that's so much easier to grow. We call it organic growth on our side, but to do more work with a happy client than to constantly search and hunt for new clients and new work. So how can you cultivate a mindset that allows for repeat business? So that would mean great customer service. Obviously, like the producer on your end is reachable, is accommodating, obviously takes accountability, is honest and real and truthful. The director doesn't flip on the day of the shoot. He or she is the same person from that really cool, schmoozy pre-production, meeting to the time of shooting. The post-production process, there's no surprises there. Everyone's above board. Yeah, I wish it was like a tangible thing, but like I would think you'd want to keep working with an agency so you can keep getting more business from them. So like you can if you're easy to work with. And we've worked with some that are easy to work with. We've worked with some that are hard to work with. And I don't know why I would go back to the ones that are hard. I just don't understand why I would. I don't have a major production issue or soapbox. We've been blessed. We've had some challenging experiences, but I haven't had a repeat challenging experience to know that it's a pattern or like something like an endemic.
Yeah. How about when it comes to, let's say, do you guys do bids? Do you put out bids for companies? Maybe what's something that you're seeing that is obsolete or something that you're seeing that is competitive when it comes to these bids? Not the spreadsheets, but the treatments themselves that's standing out, if you're willing to share something like that. Because we're seeing some evolving technologies.
I would say on the production side, I don't think this would be giving away a secret because anyone could do this. So there's treatments could be done in so many different ways. A lot of times they're 30 pages and they're just like next to Hemingway, they're probably the next greatest written thing. It's just incredible. And you can't tell if the director actually wrote it or not. And then the references, oh my goodness, they're amazing. And that's another way to like kind of like razzle and dazzle you. There's someone we've worked with who does mostly everything in GIFs. And so he shows you his vision through those references, but the references are moving, so it gives you more information about how you would want to maybe frame things and the lighting and stuff. And he does it through Google Slides, so it's just very clickable, and it's just less of like this epic InDesign document that's 900 gigs. It's just like a easy clickable Google Slides thing. You're in and out in 30 slides or so, and there's not a lot of jibber jabber. So that for the production side, it felt like an innovation, and I love it when he submits treatments because it's just like it seems like magic every time.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've been using GIFs a little bit, and there's a few new ways that other people have kind of been stepping up. One time I heard one to the point where I was just like, "That's a lot of resources they put into that. That's awesome." Like, how did they pull that? Like, they just went ahead and shot their concept almost on spec, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Wow,
that's a lot.
Wow.
I mean, it's a competition at the end of the day, and it's cool. And then I've seen that again. It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to win all the time because they might not be thematically in line with what the agency is trying to say. So sometimes they seemingly get a little too caught up in that camera move or that shot.
Yes, absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about. You're like, this didn't need to be this involved.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, because they wanted to do this one particular thing. Yeah.
Another thing I didn't ask is what is potentially coming. I mean, I haven't said the boogeyman letters because this is of AI, because this is just regular news now. I mean, AI might as well just be the new internet at this point.
It is.
Because it's gonna be in front of us every single day. Mm-hmm. I think maybe one of the only ignorant things we can say about it at this point is when somebody walks in and you go, well, you guys are fine. This is going to affect me and my industry more than you. And it's like, no, it's not. This is affecting my friends in tech. This is affecting my friends in the office, lawyers. Sometimes, I mean, so that's why I didn't even go down that path with you. But we can, of course, if you like. But if aside from the boogeyman AI, if there's anything that a trend or something that you're seeing for production that filmmakers need to hurry up and get on board with, if you have anything like that, I'd love to hear about it. I think that's why I tried to go to budgets. Budgets is kind of an easy one to go to right now, because it's kind of, at least for me, I'm looking at my friends at other companies and I'm going, hey guys, you didn't get that job because you got to start coming down. You don't get to bring 2 grip trucks out for these things anymore. Like, you have really got to learn how to simplify here.
I don't know if we're in a renaissance or a boom yet, but comedy in general seems like it took like a 5 or 6 year break. And I think it's coming back in different ways from these new small agencies, from mid-sized agencies. I think from a public consciousness standpoint, we're more receptive. We got a little self-serious there, circa 18 to 22 or something like that. And if you notice, the where you'll see it the most is the Super Bowl. That's going to announce to you where things are going. And last year was an uptick in comedic commercials. So I think when for us, like to me, doing comedy and advertising on the production side is like getting a really good surgeon, and they're careful, they're delicate, they know how to execute something at a precise level, because sometimes the line between like broad and funny is really blurs. I'm always hungry for finding more personally as a founder who's working on challenger brands who tend to trend towards being comedic, like who are the new comedic voices, who out there is steeped in the some of those ads I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, who is hungry to do that now, because there's still the greats out there. There's the Harold Einsteins, the Tom Kuntzes, the Perlorian brothers, you know, pretty much all of MJZ's roster, and others, Smuggler and stuff, Hungry Man. But then you want to find more developing talent that still have a taste level and a standard that doesn't make you like cringe when you see the work, because comedy can be, yeah, cringy too when it's not done right.
And when you say the work, I'm curious, and maybe this is I'm making up a scenario here, but let's say, I'll throw myself in with you. Let's say I know you're putting out a bid for something new, and I go, well, this person is hilarious because they're TikTok and Instagram reels. We can supply them with the quality of production. So we'll take their comedy and give it a little polish for you. Is that acceptable, or do you need to see somebody's work and go, think we need to see a little bit more of that product in existence before we roll the dice on it?
It is a good question, and it depends on the budget and the scenario at hand. I'm generally going to feel better about the proof being in the pudding. That's advice I heard from, there's a guy, Jason Bagley, who was a former CCO, ECD, Wyden and Kennedy, one of the great shops in America. And he had a piece of advice that was like, you know, when you're looking at treatments, when you're in the bid stage, do you weight the treatment over the reel or the reel over the treatment? And he said the reel, because that's who you're going to be working with. Like a treatment can overcompensate. It can have all the right references, but if that person's never been there, then it can go awry. And I experienced, that is not a horror story, but like clicking with a director, laughing a lot, and then getting to set and realizing he did not have command over the set. And we went way long, and he was trying to channel Adam McKay, you know, where you're like tossing out jokes from, you know, say this now, say this now, say this now, but he wasn't Adam McKay. And it was too much. And I was like, you don't have the discipline, you don't have the knowledge or the reps to know like what's funny or what's not funny. And so you can't make decisions quickly. And now the client's just like, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing so many lines? You know, that was an awkward experience.
We can learn more from a good horror story sometimes than from all of the positive help questions. Sometimes it's just pain is a good teacher. And so I appreciate you sharing that, because, you know, it's also informative too.
Yeah.
I think it was Phil Kosid from Battery. They do a couple of Warner Brothers video games. And he was such a cool guy. And him and Stanton Hill, they were both on there. And he was like, man, you can send me all the gifts in the world. Gifts with a T, not gifts, as we discussed. He's like, you can send me all the gifts. I can't do this if I don't know. He's like, there's too much money on the line. If I don't know that you can deliver, I can't take that risk because there's too much money on the line.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I would like to know, what is maybe the most surprising thing that you've learned since starting Familiar Creatures? What's something that maybe you didn't see? It can be a pleasant thing, another horror story that you've learned from, but what's something you learned about yourself? You said it's been 7 years now?
Yeah, almost 7 years. Okay, about myself, you can't force anything. You cannot force anything to happen. You can have thousands of opportunistic emails and calls and meetings. You can network your tail off, and you should do some of these things, but it will happen when it will happen, and it's usually not when you think it will. And sometimes it rains, and sometimes it's a drought, and you just cannot manufacture success. You have to keep working hard, and it happens in the background almost, maybe sometimes in spite of it. What I was going to say about the business is I learned how much reputation matters because I felt like we were doing really great work out the gate, but we were nobodies. And we didn't have a lot of third party attribution. There weren't a lot of other people saying like, these guys are great, you know? And so clients have to have someone vouch for you almost, to be like, no, this is a funny commercial and these are funny people and they also know how to do business stuff. They can't judge it by watching a 30-second commercial or 30-second commercials or going to your website or hearing your company's name. That's not enough of an indication. You need the time. And I always thought about how all-star players are selected in different sports. It's usually based on last year or 2 years ago, how they were performing, not that current year. So it's something I've been taught over time, almost in a proverbial axiom sense, and I'm still learning. And because I'm really impatient. I believe in myself. I believe in this company. I think we can do incredible stuff. And it's like we're a service industry that depends on clients, you know, much like you guys are a service industry that depends on us. You can make spec stuff. It's hard for us to do that because it would be probably illegal. So you just have to like build a thing and just, you know, be relentless and tenacious, and things will happen. It might not happen the way you thought it would, but you just can't make it happen. You can't force it.
Mm. You know, you said you have to get somebody to speak positively about you. I'm butchering how you said it. Reference, basically. I'm assuming you don't mean get a good quote from them to put on your website. And I'm twisting the knife on that a little bit because that's something that a lot of us do. But I'm assuming you mean like, no, I mean authentic reputation. Like somebody can pick up the phone and call your last client and go, hey, like I'm about to spend a lot of money here. Are they safe?
Yeah, we've gotten referrals from other clients we've gone after who we made a good impression on. We've gotten referrals from the Martin agency time and time again. You know, we've asked our clients, hey, it seems like you might know this guy, you know, could you talk to him about us? That works so much harder than just like hoping for the best and like, well, we did it. We put the one commercial on our website and they're just always tuning in, you know, like it's CNN, and it's like they're not. They're only going to come to it if someone told them to.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and that, you know, I hadn't thought about the referrals that way actually, from people who you said referrals from other agencies.
Yeah.
I think I just learned something there because I've never thought of that. I feel dumb. I've only ever thought, well, I can only ask our existing clients for referrals.
Yeah, if every industry has an ecosystem or a food chain, be real and honest about where you are in it. We know that we're not going to compete for business with a Martin agency yet. Some ways we're getting close to that. Some ways we're far away. So we're not a threat to them, and so they can refer us business. Much like in your world, let's just say for fun, MJZ, like I just love MJZ, is like the best of the best. Like they're not going to be sad to turn down work that doesn't meet their minimum level of engagement if they have a roster of folks that they can say like, well, we can't handle this and we don't even know if it's good for one of our, you know, younger directors. Like, you should talk to these people. Like, I could see that being a thing if it's not already a thing.
Yeah. Well, Justin, this has been great, man. Before we wrap, is there anything else that you want to share that's going on at Familiar Creatures? Or maybe where people can find you or learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely go to our website, familiarcreatures.com. Check us out on Instagram and LinkedIn. And yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time. We're growing. We recently won the Bubba Burger account, and we're working on it right now. And I can't wait to show the world what we come up with.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm just really excited about that work. It's such a blue chip brand that so many people know about, and it's exciting to work on someone like that. That's just a great product. Like maybe it sounds corny to, you know, the youngsters out there, but like it makes our jobs easier when the brand and product is solid already, and you don't have to like overcome that or overcompensate that. Yeah, that's what's on the horizon amongst a lot of other really cool projects, but that's one I'll call out right now.
Awesome, man. Well, in host fashion, I'll say thank you so much. Appreciate it. And I hope we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, sounds great.